Do you ever stumble upon a memory so vivid it feels like stepping back in time? A memory that feels so real, it almost smells like the air of a forgotten summer? What if that memory was tied to a place, a sanctuary brimming with stories, scents, and secrets of childhood? Welcome to Grandma's Garden, a place that wasn't just about flowers or plants, but something much deeper. A place where love was grown, alongside life's most valuable lessons. Have you ever wondered why certain places hold so much power over us? Why they can tug at our hearts even decades later? Maybe it's the memories they carry, or maybe it's the love poured into them. Either way, there's something magical about revisiting a place like that, as if time itself pauses to let you feel it all over again. Let me take you on a journey back to my childhood, to the garden where I grew up. The garden that shaped me, taught me patience, strength, and the value of nurturing what you love. And maybe as I share my story, you'll find echoes of your own in it. It always started at the gate. That old wooden gate. It stood like a guardian to a magical world beyond. I remember the way it creaked when I pushed it open. Not a harsh sound, but one that felt familiar, almost welcoming. I can still hear it if I close my eyes. And beyond that gate was where the magic began. The first thing you noticed was the colors. An explosion of reds, yellows, and pinks from the roses and sunflowers that seemed to stretch towards the sky. But the magic wasn't just in the way it looked. It was in the way it smelled. A mix of fresh earth, blooming flowers, and a faint hint of lavender from the sachets Grandma kept in her apron pockets. Have you ever had a place that made you feel safe? Where time seemed to slow down and all the worries of the world just melted away? That's what Grandma's garden was for me. It wasn't just a garden, it was a haven. A place where stories were told, lessons were learned, and love was quietly but profoundly planted. Every visit to Grandma's house began the same way. The gate. That rickety, paint-chipped wooden gate. It wasn't just a way in, it was like a doorway to another world. The way it squeaked as it swung open felt almost alive, like it was whispering secrets from the past, inviting you to step inside and uncover them. Beyond it lay a wonderland. Rows of roses stood proud and elegant, their petals glistening with morning dew. Sunflowers, tall and golden, towered like sentinels, swaying gently in the breeze as if welcoming me back. And the scent, oh the scent. A blend of fresh earth, the sweetness of blossoms, and something else. Something warm, familiar, and comforting. It wasn't just the smell of flowers, it was the smell of home. The kind of scent that wraps around you, pulling you back to childhood with a single breath. It was magical, not just because of the colors or the flowers, though they were beautiful. It was something deeper. It was the way the garden felt alive. As if every petal, every blade of grass, every tiny weed had a story to tell. And at the heart of it all was Grandma. Because what made Grandma's garden truly special wasn't just the flowers. It wasn't the carefully pruned bushes or the neat rows of vegetables. It was her. The woman who poured her heart into every inch of that soil. Every seed she planted was a symbol of her love. Every flower that bloomed was a testament to her care. And somehow you could feel it. Like the garden was a reflection of her, patient, nurturing, and endlessly giving. But have you ever thought about why places like this stay with us? Why they leave such a deep imprint on our hearts? Is it the beauty? The memories? Or is it the lessons hidden among the petals and roots? Did you know that even the simplest garden can teach life lessons that stay with you forever? So what lessons did this one hold? Lessons that even now I carry with me every day? Let me share the magic of what I learned right here among the flowers and whispers of my grandmother's love. Grandma's garden was more than just a collection of plants. It was a classroom. A living, breathing classroom where lessons weren't taught with books or chalkboards, but with petals, soil, and sunlight. I can still see her now, crouched in the dirt, her hands roughened from years of care but always so gentle. Her touch seemed almost magical, as if the plants trusted her to guide them. I remember her voice, calm and steady, as she'd say, "You can't rush a flower to bloom, darling, but you can care for it. Water it, protect it from the harsh winds, and it will reward you when it's ready." That lesson, so simple yet profound, wasn't just about flowers. It was about life, about patience, about understanding that the best things take time to grow, and the most beautiful moments can't be forced. They come in their own time if you nurture them. And then there were the weeds. Oh, the weeds. I hated pulling them. My little hands would get scratched and dirty, and no matter how many I pulled, there always seemed to be more. I remember complaining about it one hot afternoon, sweat dripping down my face, ready to give up. But Grandma would just laugh and say, Life's like this, darling. If you let the weeds grow, they'll choke out the beauty. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to care enough to tend to the good and pull out what doesn't belong. At the time, I thought she was just talking about gardening. But as I grew, I realized she wasn't just teaching me about plants. She was teaching me about challenges, about people, about life. Those weeds became a metaphor for everything that could hold me back. Doubts, fears, toxic habits, and sometimes even relationships. In her words, they became a guiding principle. Tend to the good, remove the bad, make room for beauty to flourish. Grandma's lessons weren't grand or complicated, but they were powerful. They shaped how I saw the world, how I nurtured the things I cared about, and how I faced the inevitable challenges that came my way. She showed me that growth takes effort, that beauty requires care, and that even the weeds have something to teach us, if we're willing to learn. Do you have a teacher like that in your life? Someone whose wisdom still blooms within you, even long after they've gone? I hope you do. And if not, maybe you can be that teacher for someone else. As I stand here today, years later, the garden looks different. The roses are fewer now, their blooms scattered among patches of wild grass. The sunflowers that once stood like golden towers are gone, replaced by shrubs that have grown a little unruly. But the essence is still here. It lingers in every corner, every petal, and every stone. Everywhere I look, there are stories. Stories etched into the very soil. Over there by the oak tree, that's where Grandma and I would sit on hot summer afternoons, sipping lemonade she made just for us. I can still hear the ice clinking in the glasses, feel the coolness against my hands. And right here in this little patch of daisies, that's where we laughed until our sides hurt, chasing butterflies that always seemed just out of reach. And here, this is where we planted a tree for Grandpa. I remember how Grandma's hands trembled as she dug the hole, her face a mixture of grief and determination. We planted it together in silence. It was more than a tree, it was a promise to remember him, to keep his spirit alive in the garden he loved. Why do these memories feel so alive here? Why does it feel like in this place time hasn't really moved on? Is it the garden itself, the sights and smells that bring everything rushing back? Or is it something deeper, something invisible but powerful, tying me to this space forever? I think I know. It's love. It's the love my grandmother poured into this space. Every seed she planted, every weed she pulled, every flower she nurtured. It was her way of creating something lasting, something that would live on even when she couldn't. That love, her love, didn't just stay in the garden. It rooted itself in me. And now, every time I stand here, I feel it. Like she's still here, tending to the flowers, guiding me, reminding me of who I am. And maybe, just maybe, it's the same for you. Do you have a place like this? A place that feels like home for your heart? A place that holds your memories, your stories, your love? If you do, hold on to it. And if you don't, perhaps it's time to create one. As I leave the garden, I carry it with me. Not in my hands, but in my soul. Every memory, every lesson, every laugh and tear, it's all here, tucked away safely in my heart. And as I step away, I find myself wondering, what are your gardens? What are the places that shaped you, nurtured you, or simply gave you a sense of peace? The gardens in your memories, or perhaps the ones you've yet to create. I invite you to revisit your special places. Maybe it's a garden like Grandma's, or maybe it's a cozy corner of your childhood home, a park bench where you once dreamed of the future, or even a place you only visit in your mind. Go back, walk through its gates, breathe in its essence. Listen closely, because every place like this has stories waiting to be heard. Stories of love, of growth, of who you were and who you're becoming. And if you don't have a place like this, why not start creating one today? It doesn't have to be a garden. It could be anything, a space, a tradition, or even just a moment you make sacred. Because one day you'll look back and it will be these places, these moments that hold your legacy. Because in the end, it's not just a garden, it's a legacy. It's the love you leave behind for others to discover, to carry with them, just as I carry mine. What will your legacy be? What stories will your garden tell?